Alright,
Do the thing.
so welcome back to this episode. I don't even know which one this is of Out on a Limb.
I think it's episode 7.
It's up there. We've done a couple of these episodes, haven't we?
Yeah.
Okay,
I'm mostly
well,
doing it for fun at this point. The views aren't excellent, but I don't give a fuck. It's fun.
yeah. Alright, let's get started.
So we didn't decide on a topic.
No, we did not.
Let's just start with the pictures, shall we?
Yeah, let's just go right into the pictures because they're fun. I'm only mildly traumatized. It's fine.
Do that one last, because we can. You can bitch about this.
Okay. Fuck it. Here. Share that. Okay.
That's just like an aircraft carrier, isn't it?
So we got our first ship back. Now, there is something I like about this. And it's those guns.
The little guns or the big guns?
Those turrets there.
The big ones. Okay.
Because that is actually accurate. A lot of pre-World War II aircraft carriers were given, like, fairly large main guns, batteries, because they didn't think that the aircraft would be enough.
Were they wrong in that estimation?
Yes, completely. They were all swapped out for smaller guns.
Oh, can I ask why? Like, what is...
Because aircraft.
Well, because I feel like, what happens if your aircraft can't go up for some... Like, what happens if you get attacked in a storm? You know what I mean? Like, I know we'll still fly aircraft in a lot of storms, but you get what I'm saying.
You could still fly aircraft, and if you're being attacked in a storm, or if you're in a storm, then the opponent's also in a storm.
Well, yeah, but my thing is, if you're in a carrier fleet, right?
Yeah.
And you're fighting an opposing fleet, but it doesn't have carriers. It just has destroyers, escorts, frigates, that sort of shit.
Okay.
Them attacking you in a storm with a carrier like this but without the main guns, the big guns, that can defend itself, would put you at a severe disadvantage. So why not?
Not really.
Have them anyways.
Because it's the issue there with that concept is that it's hard to actually do that. Like the logistics of hunting down your enemy, timing your attack with a storm like that, and then also getting within range, because all fleets have scouts, and they're constantly monitoring everything around them, so they'll notice your fleet coming up, and they'll notice that storm coming up, and they'll probably figure out what you're gonna do.
And I imagine
leave.
And I imagine a carrier fleet would have escorts and shit anyways that would get in front of this. If
carrier fleets are giant.
Yeah.
I mean, every carrier has a minimum of an escort fleet. And also, they can launch their aircraft in most weather. There's actually a funny story from World War II, because so the Americans and the British had kind of competing carrier designs, which was, broadly speaking, armored deck and unarmored deck. Well, the British kept, like, all their aircraft, essentially, inside the ship.
Yeah.
Well, the Americans kept a lot on deck. So at one point there was a British aircraft carrier and an American aircraft carrier in, like, a Typhoon. And a bunch of American aircraft got washed off the deck and got all battered around. And so the Admiral, seeing all this happening, sent a message to the British asking how they had fared in the Typhoon. And the British's response was, "What Typhoon?"
Yeah, because they stored all their planes below deck. Isn't that what we do now?
In an armored box. Kind of. We don't do the armored box that the British had.
Yeah, but we do store them below deck because we're...
There are quite a few still on deck.
Oh, I wasn't aware of that.
A lot of times. Like, if you look at, here, let's just look up images of aircraft carriers.
That's a great background.
It is. I love it.
That's... My day's volt is intensified.
See?
Yeah. So we do a mix now.
Oh, this is how we always had it. We'd have a bunch on deck and a bunch under.
Huh.
In the hangar. And it's just because that way you can fit more.
Well, yeah, but does it matter if you fit more if you fucking give them all a bath in the first really bad storm?
Oh, it was
Or
just
have-
because that was an especially bad typhoon for them.
Oh, okay. Okay, so it's not that. Okay, so it's just kind of a difference thing. Why don't we do
Yeah.
Why don't we do the armored box? What was wrong with the armored box? Was it just unnecessary?
Because it makes it a lot smaller, and it's fairly unnecessary. The armored box is because British aircraft carriers were made to fight a European foe in Europe, which means they'd be closer to ground-based bombers, so they could be hit by like heavy bombers with 2,000-pound bombs.
So they were worried about a different kind of threat, and later we realized that wasn't necessarily a problem because of who they were fighting. And
So
that kind of changed.
So the Americans had an unarmored deck and no box, and the British had an armored deck and a box. Well, it switched kind of, where the Americans then took on the armored deck but still had no box, and so did the British. Because the armored deck is handy, but the armored box is unnecessary.
Yeah, because the armored deck, just like fighting another ship, will be useful.
Oh, no, it was kamikaze.
Oh, no, yeah, shit, yeah, that's the thing.
The British, when they took kamikaze attacks, they essentially just swept them off the deck. Because there were like accounts of full-on force kamikaze attacks being reported as like bounces, because they just skid along the deck and go off the side.
The noise you're hearing is a lawnmower, by the way. I don't know how well that's picking up.
I can hear it a little bit. Okay, so let's move on to the next aircraft carrier.
I didn't know that about the turrets. That's actually an interesting thing. What the fuck am I looking at?
That's an aircraft carrier.
Is it?
This one,
okay.
if I had to guess,
No.
is a aircraft carrier built on...
No, I'm an
Actually,
idiot.
this might be one of the ones that was built on an armored cruiser. I think
Yeah.
they built a couple of those.
I know I'm just stupid. You see the wires connecting the two towers on the control area? My dumbass thought that was like a building for a second. For just the shortest second, just long enough for me to get confused and say something dumb. No, now I see what it is. It's like braces or signal towers or something. Or maybe just power
Yeah, that's
lines.
just rigging.
Yeah, I didn't.
That's
My dumbass. I'm like, what is this? Why is there just a giant sheet? And then I went, oh,
Oh, wait, those are wires.
you're dumb.
Yeah, no.
Fluff.
But, no, this is actually... I like this, because this looks to be a ship that was refit into an aircraft carrier.
Yeah, that's what I was about to say. It looks like a lot of the gun turrets, like, are a little bit below, but on their own kind of deck. It looks like the aircraft carrier portion is almost bracketed up above it.
Yeah, and so they did that quite a bit, actually.
Yeah, I don't know how efficient that would be to do on purpose. To design ships that are like
No,
that.
no, you'd never want to do that on purpose, because it's just... You're taking, like, it's just bad, but, like, there are a couple ships being built for the Washington Naval Treaty, or before it, but, like, kind of the same time. And so suddenly they weren't allowed, so they were just refit into aircraft carriers.
Yeah, because wasn't that, like, it limited how many guns you could have and stuff?
Size. Tonnage.
Oh, is that all it was? I'm not aware. The only exposure...
It was limited in a lot of things.
The only exposure to the Washington Naval Treaty that I have is Hearts of Iron. In which I think they explain that... Well, the way that it's controlled is, like... Your ships can only have a certain tonnage and and if you have too many guns, they won't be allowed either.
It's a lot. There was a lot of restrictions. Tonnage, what could be used where, how big the guns could be.
Yeah. God, I think I remember...
Everybody lied about it, though. Every single power
yes.
lied about their tonnage.
Oh god, yeah.
Because you can't actually, like, measure the tonnage by putting it on a scale.
Well, I think as the French, that's an actual thing that they're, like, trying to find ways to let you do. Is, like, actively deceive.
It's just a mess. Okay, next aircraft carrier.
Sorry, I'm really interested in naval shit, and I don't know anything about it.
Yeah. It's interesting. Watch the YouTuber Drakenafel. Or Drakenafel. I'll send it to you after this.
Yeah. Or, I mean, you can look it up on here if you just want to spotlight it in the
Yeah,
Thank you.
let's do it. People that watch this, you're gonna
Fucking
about to see my
fucking leapt on that.
oh, I misspelled that, but it's this guy. Okay, he
I can see
is.
you watching videos.
What I love though is for April Fools, this is what he did.
Oh, did he cover the?
He took it entirely seriously.
That's glorious.
It was.
The Emperor class is one of their. I want to say it's one of their medium-sized ships. No, I think that's one of their. Yeah, that's one of their medium-sized destroyers. I think.
Yeah. Okay. So here's this aircraft carrier. I'm trying to figure out what these are.
I was curious too. I looked it up, and what those look like to me are they're basically like pumps. They if there's a hole in the ship or something, like if they're getting a fight and you punch a hole in the lower decks, those can be used to pump water out to try and resist sinking.
Yeah, I could see it.
From what I read,
this looks like another. No, this. I can't tell if this one's purpose built. I think it is.
I can't. It might be. I mean, it doesn't look bracketed up on anything except the front, and on the front that might be purposeful.
Yeah. So
like,
I think this was
invented guns to protect them.
Yeah, I think this was a purpose built aircraft carrier.
I really like the design. I like that front end a lot.
Yeah.
That just looks good. I don't know.
I'm just always jealous of Solo's drawing.
One of these days.
So, why do you have to be so perfect?
One of these days, I'm going to have money and pay him to draw me things. Or I don't know.
Who knows?
Yeah.
I've given up on trying to figure out people's gender. I'm not even sure if you're a guy. Your high-pitched voice in that.
Listen.
Alright. Oh boy. Okay, we're getting into the battleships now.
Yeah. See, battleships I know a little bit more about, but only in the sense of, like, this big gun, this how big gun go boom. I have a very simplistic understanding of the things about Navy that I understand the best.
You'll benefit, from Drac. He's got a lot of good information. I don't have much to say here. It's a battleship.
Yeah. What to edify me? What the fuck is the difference between those little turrets that look exactly the same as the bigger turrets, but are just small?
Gun size.
Yeah. What do they do? Is that for like lighter ships, or is that just like I can fire more shells if I fit a gun in you?
So, a lot of times these kind of mid-range can also be kind of used as high-altitude anti-air. Like heavy anti-air guns.
That makes sense. Because that was what I was going to ask next, is I don't see any anti-air. But if they can be
they're there. Like right there. There.
Oh, they're just smaller.
Those along there.
I'm just overestimating how big an AA gun has to be, I guess.
Oh, the Orlican is giant compared to a person, but compared to a battleship, it's tiny.
Yeah, that might be the other end of the coin.
Mount anti-air guns on top of the turrets.
Okay.
Like, I've seen images of them mounting anti-air guns on top of turrets.
I can see the meme now. He opens the top port and just screams at the guy commanding the turret, "Stop turning, I'm trying to shoot shit."
Yeah, alright, next one.
Oh, that's cool. I like that.
So, this looks to be a Dreadnought era battleship. But kind of like right in that inter-period between Dreadnought and the kind of more modern battleships. The only thing I'm trying to figure out is this.
Like what that big square thing is?
I'm wondering, is it maybe a radar?
That's what I was going to suspect, because I don't see one of any sort anywhere else on the ship, and if this is like
I'm not sure.
If this is post World War II, that's when they started trying to integrate this ship like heavily. So that might just be like one of the
this would not be a post World War II. This would be post World War I at most, basically, because of these. They didn't really have these casemate guns.
Oh, then God, yes, that's probably like a radio or radar system up in the back there.
Yeah.
Because those motherfuckers had to be up high and they were big. That would
Yeah.
also explain why it's got the big wires running a little bit, because you could run... You might need to run power from, like, across the ship. Because sometimes rigging like those, I know, were also, like, electrical. Or it was integrated.
Yeah. Okay. Yes, this one.
Oh, that's pretty.
This is the one where I was almost wondering, because Solo said they were Dreadnought, which I'm assuming they mean Dreadnought era, but this one almost looks pre-Dreadnought.
Well, what does Dreadnought mean in this context? Because I know...
Okay.
To explain what I mean, I know in Star Wars, for instance, because that's where I get some of my verbiage, a Dreadnought is described based on its damage output, not its size. And those are some big fucking guns.
Okay, here, I will show you what Dreadnought means.
Oh,
this is what it means. This thing right here. 1906, the HMS Dreadnought.
Okay, so Dreadnought was a class of ship, not a type.
It was a ship. There was a ship named Dreadnought.
And what made it special? Was it just big?
It's guns. So, if you look here... So, you see how it has... Mostly, these are all big guns. Basically of all the same caliber, with only a couple other guns on it.
Yeah.
Let me show you pre-Dreadnought.
It looks, from the top like that, it looks very much like the Star Wars explanation, where it's just, I'm going to kill other big ships. That's my job.
That's not quite what it was, though. Because, so it's hard to see with this image, but pre-Dreadnought would have like 4, 5, or even 6 different calibers of gun.
Yeah.
On them. The Dreadnought stuck with essentially like 3 calibers at most, which was your tiny guns, 20mm, 50 cal, your big guns, and occasionally some smaller guns.
Was that for like...
But it was like... It's because they realized you don't need... So, pre-Dreadnoughts would have, like, listing their... If you listed out their calibers, they'd have their primary battery, secondary battery, intermediate battery, tertiary battery, and torpedo battery. And those would all be different calibers.
Yeah, so like it was, they simplified it so like the big guns had this caliber, the little guns had these caliber.
Yeah, so essentially they made it's the big guns, and then you have a couple small guns. So because you don't need these intermediate guns, because the big guns can do the intermediate if you just give more of them.
Yeah.
And so decrease the number of guns, but increase the amount of actual firepower.
Yeah, because you streamline the design and the ammunition types, and therefore can store better and design.
You can store more also. That's the big thing.
Because you
don't need to carry.
You could purpose build rooms to store ammunition if it's all the same ammunition.
Well, you could do that before, but even then you had to store 6 different types of ammunition.
Yeah.
Well, now you have to store 2. Okay, so... Oh, we're getting into the tanks. So this...
What is that thing on top of the barrel?
Up here?
Yeah, that thing. Is that like a spotting thing?
It might be a sight. Probably is.
Because it looks... I love it. I like the design... The artistry is good. But that looks genuinely like someone added like a red dot scope to their fucking tank. You know, does that make sense?
Yeah. So I'm trying to figure out the country for this. Because it gives me some kind of German vibes with
That's what I was going to say, but I don't feel like it's German.
Yeah, but it doesn't look German, but it also has this, which is a distinctly German thing. These are viewports for the commander.
Well, maybe it's, like, near to Germany. Like, it's not...
It looks Russian with its, the Russians built anti-tank guns like this.
Maybe it's somewhere between?
I don't know.
Or maybe one...
It's cool looking, though. Much I can say.
It might be German, and they were, like, integrating some Russian stuff. It might be, like, an experimental tank.
Probably Rush. Yeah, I'm not sure. I like the look of it though. It's awesome. Solo, I'm still jealous of you.
Yeah, it's gorgeous. These are
This
just
hurts. This
yeah.
hurts me.
Okay, so the way now in a tank that like allows like fire at will kind of thing, like if you spot a target, you can engage. This is a decent design.
It's not. There's a
Um,
big issue here.
which is
So
what am I
when
not
you
saying?
added in more turrets like this,
Yeah,
two kind of things happened. The tank got taller, and it got heavier.
yeah. This is a
And because this got heavier, you had to decrease the armor.
Snek. It has a spoiler.
That's okay.
It's a.
You can believe that. I know you. I know you have your precious things.
I don't know what that actually is, but it looks like a spoiler, and I love it.
I'm seeing that now, and God, why?
What is
why
it
did you do
actually?
this? I'm pretty sure those are. So on the like FTs, I think they were an armor plate there. That might be for like clearing things.
Oh, would that be the front of the tank then?
No, this is the front.
Oh,
They drive backwards sometimes.
that's what I was gonna say. So they just yeah.
But so one of the big issues with things like this is they were tall, they were big, but they had weak armor because they had to lighten it somehow,
Yeah, so it
and
could.
so they take off armor.
Yeah. So maybe.
So
I'm trying to think of how I
multiple
would salvage
turrets
this.
is it's just bad.
Yeah.
It doesn't.
Is it multiple turrets at all, or is it the sheer number of goddamn turrets?
It's multiple turrets at all. Even 2 turret tanks. It was just because you also had to now have an extra, more ammunition, another person, and
Well, could you solve the ammunition problem at least by making them the same, like the the dreadnought thing you were talking about a second ago? If they were the same caliber, would that like strip out the turrets in the middle, like right here in the like right there in the middle, strip that out, flatten it, take down some of the weight, take the top turret off the back end, keep both of them, make them the same caliber.
So okay, that kind of helps.
Yeah.
But you still have the issue of you don't have as much ammunition overall. Because now you have 2 guns firing the same type of ammunition.
Yeah.
And the commander still needs to spot targets. The reason your gunners couldn't spot targets is because they can only see out of a scope. So they can only see a very limited view.
So so a big issue with this would be like you'd need a lot more crew.
Yep, which again it means you'd have to have less armor. It just in the end it's not worth it.
Yeah.
If you could just have 1 turret.
My immediate thought was, well, just have your second gunner and have like a dedicated spotter, and have like side gunners maybe for the little turrets and shit, like they can move around. But that's added like 4 people to the tank crew, I think. And also,
which is already pretty. Shit. It's already really cramped with 4 people. Now you have 8 people for what, another gun?
Yeah. No, I see your point now.
Yeah. So it's. There's
understand...
a reason why every single group, without fail, abandoned multiple turret designs.
Yeah, I can understand the principle of the idea.
Oh yeah, it makes complete sense. You get another gun.
Yeah,
I mean that's twice the firepower, but
yeah, you could hit them twice. You could fire behind you. You could engage multiple targets if you needed to.
Yeah.
In principle, like intuitively, it's understandable why you would want that. But in application, yeah.
All right, so our next tank is.
Now, does this fall victim to the same problem of having multiple turrets, or is this more of a
real quick?
Because my immediate thinking, because those all look like the same turret, but they face a little bit differently, is the idea like you fucking swap your seats, like you swap which turret you're using based on where it's facing.
Yeah, so that all. The spawns and guns are something that everyone tried. And again, it just became like, you could do this.
Or you could make it lighter,
smaller, with more armor and 1 big gun.
Yeah, which, correct me if I'm wrong, that's kind of where we've gone with modern tank design.
That's entirely where we've gone with modern tanks. They're lower, or they're in the middle ground, essentially, in size, so they're bigger than the small tanks used to be, but they're still smaller than these monstrosities.
Yeah. Now here's my
Um,
question. With modern technology, do you think the landship principle could work? Like,
no.
if we wanted it to, do you think we could find a way to incorporate this idea and actually have it matter?
No. There's one reason. Missiles.
Oh god, yes, missiles are a problem for all tanks, aren't they?
They are, but
Bigger
a
target,
tank,
easier to hit.
yeah.
Yeah, that's why I said it and I immediately thought, yeah, but it's bigger now.
Yeah, it's bigger. It's a bigger target, and it's generally slower, which means
You'd
it
either
gives your
have to
opponent
make
more
the
time.
you'd either have to make it lighter to let it move faster, which defeats part
Which
of
means
the
you're gonna have
purpose.
less armor,
Yeah, yeah.
which means then smaller guns can puncture it.
At some point, this has stopped being a tank, and now it's just a lightly armored transport, basically. Which,
Essentially.
I could say a reason for that, but we have those already.
Yeah, we already do those which have gun ports on them.
Yeah,
So,
that's the engine on top of it, right?
Probably.
Okay, I was just checking. Yeah. But yeah, I see what
I'm
you're
not
saying.
sure. Yeah, so it's okay. This beauty is, if I'm not wrong, I think a Panzer II,
I think so.
which I love them for the sole reason of they made up the majority of the Ghost Division.
Did they?
Oh yeah, most of the Ghost Division was Panzer II and Panzer IIIs.
Now, I know Panzer IVs were, I think it was 4s that were fucking terrifying.
Panzer IVs were pretty good, but they were, like, everybody, when they think of the German army in World War II, they think of, like, Panzer IVs, Tigers, Panthers,
Yeah, but weren't
King
those...
Tigers.
Yeah, as I say, King
But those were
Tigers.
really rare.
Yeah, those were
Like,
really
the
rare
Panzer
'cause they were
IV was
hard.
kind of a medium rarity.
Yeah.
It was a medium rare tank.
Because they were, I think, segueing that in to try and replace the main battle tank, but they hadn't quite gotten it done.
Yeah, so there's a Panzer IV.
Yeah. Because the Panzer IV, if I remember right, was like a very good brawler. And versus the American tanks, which were not.
So these things were survivable, and when they had the long 75mm gun, they could kill just
That's not
about
the
any
same
other tank.
It's the wrong tank. You went to...
I know. This is the M4 Sherman, though,
Yeah.
if I'm not wrong.
Yeah, no, it is. I see it now. That's the Sherman.
Yeah, once the Sherman got its long 75mm,
It got a lot better.
it could kill just about any other tank.
Yeah. But before that, which again, I think that I'm gonna call it the Mark II Sherman just for fucking ease of reference here. The Mark II, I think, didn't really start showing up until the end of the war either. Which would kind of that's what the 4s were doing, is they were compensating to deal with like what the Shermans were good at, which was fuck you. There's 9 of us.
Yeah, I mean, that was, though, honestly, like, more the Russians, where, oh, your Tiger can carry 72 shells? Well, we'll send 73 T-34s.
Yeah, and the Americans had a similar philosophy, though they applied it far differently.
Well, like, the
would win.
Sherman could survive, like, your crew would survive just about anything. It was really survivable.
Yeah. I look at it as both the not the Germans, both the Russians and the Americans had a very much a mass assault kind of doctrine, but one of them was suicidal.
It was that the Americans and the Russians both had the industrial capacity, and the Germans didn't.
Yeah.
And
that's
okay.
when mass assault works. I think is like you can outproduce.
So, one of the things I noticed is right there.
Did he draw the German?
They'd been putting in a Iron Cross on it.
Yeah.
which I like. I like the Iron Cross. It's a nice symbol. It's and for anybody that attempts to claim that it is a Nazi symbol, you, good sir, are wholeheartedly wrong.
I mean, kind of right, but also wrong. It's a German symbol, but the Nazis were Germans, so
They did use it, but I mean,
if
we just look up,
I love the Iron Cross as like a thing, just aesthetically, I like it.
if we just look at the Bundeswehr's website here.
Yeah.
Oh look, what's that? An Iron Cross.
No, yeah, it's just a German symbol.
Yeah.
I will point out, outside of military application, like, it's very much, like, extreme right nowadays. Like, that's a thing. I know I'm not going to name names because that's a bad idea. There are multiple, like, neo-Nazi groups that will wear these to, like, very quietly be like, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, but also a lot of it's because they're just dumb and they don't realize that it's not.
No, yeah.
The Nazis did use it. It wasn't because it was their symbol. It was because it was a symbol of Germany.
Well, yeah, but their thing is with that, they don't. Either they're stupid and they don't realize, or they don't care because they're trying to allude to.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's shitty, but people. I am very much of the mindset of, like, words and icons can change their meaning, but, like, fight that by using them accurately.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah.
that's my opinion on it. Is like, if you do that, you can totally win. Like, fuck them.
Mm-hmm.
I'm agreeing with you, by the way. That's where I'm going with this.
Yeah, yeah. I get it.
Yeah. Is like...
Okay, well,
yeah.
I think that is our screen sharing.
Also, I'd like to just point out the SS had killer coats.
The SS had a lot of stuff. It was...
I don't even... Like, I like coats. I like nice coats. That's a thing with me.
Mm-hmm.
And they had some kick-ass coats.
That is true. I'm gonna be honest here. My favorite uniform, probably like ever, is the German uniform from like World War II and World War One.
Are you talking Volkssturm or Wehrmacht or?
I'm talking like, okay, my favorite uniform is the Imperial German, the kind of like gray, gray jacket.
That's Wehrmacht.
Yeah, it's. I mean,
I like that aesthetically, as well.
Yeah, I like the gray. I just like the gray. It's really nice and uniform. It's a very uniformy uniform.
Off the top of my head, I'm probably wrong and can get yelled at. I think the Wehrmacht wore those. The Volkssturm had like a similar one, but it was like irregular.
Okay, you keep saying Wehrmacht. Isn't it Wehrmacht?
Yeah, it's German words. I wasn't sure.
Is this like you and Cinnamon?
Listen, I can say Wehrmacht. I wasn't sure if it was Wehrmacht or Wehrmacht because I've heard both.
Pretty sure it's Wehrmacht.
There you go. So the Wehrmacht had the one, and the way you could tell was like they were, like, because the Volkssturm were conscripts, they didn't have like regular, like some people would be missing a jacket, some people would be missing this, or like they'd have their own shit, a little bit, and then I think the SS had their own uniforms.
The SS were just kind of like...
Because they did have military detachment. Like, they were primarily, like, secret police, but they did have, like, these are SS soldiers, fuck you.
Yeah.
Because that was a problem towards the end of the war, because Germany surrendered and the SS lost their shit.
Oh yeah, the SS were not happy about the entire surrendering thing.
Yeah, they just went ballistic and started murdering people.
I mean, just look at the battle for Castle Itter.
Oh, that's the where the one German commander, like,
joined forces with the American commander to fight against...
I've heard that story. I like that. The one time that America and Germany had the same...
It was the time when, technically, in World War II, the Americans and the Germans fought on the same side.
Yeah, and I like that I love that story. I want there to. I've heard that they're making a movie, like a
Oh,
new
I
one,
hope they are.
and
Oh,
I
have you
hope that
heard
that's true.
about the time when a submarine sank a train?
What? I have multiple questions.
So there was this Gato class submarine, and its captain was on his fourth war patrol, and that was rare because you only got like 3 war patrols. It might have been his actually sixth, and you only got 5. Anyway, you only got like a certain number of war patrols each captain. Well, he was granted a special, essentially like a special final war patrol.
Because he
Really
really
rare.
wanted
It was
it.
because he was an excellent commander. Well, he asked for rocket tubes to be installed on the bow of his torpedo, or on the bow of his submarine, and they did. So he had a bunch of rocket tubes on the bow. Um, and in World War II, there was a single operation ever conducted on Japanese soil. I mean, like on the Japanese home island, Japan.
Yeah, because we never really got to like Japan itself, did we?
Yeah, we never landed on
We
Japan.
took a fuck ton of the islands around it, and then they surrendered for reasons I won't get into. Um,
I think everybody knows those reasons, Twisted.
yes, they know
It's
both of them.
yeah.
Um, but
But no,
YouTube
so
doesn't
what they
care.
did is they got into a bay and they noticed that this one train, which carried supplies to a base, would go by at a certain time each day. Or it might have been each week. Well, they crept on shore under the cover of night with a bunch of TNT and a pressure detonator. They climbed up onto the train tracks, planted the explosives, set them to detonate when certain pressure was applied,
And
then ran away. Train goes by, it blows up and rolls into the water. And so they
glorious.
technically sank a train.
Technically, yeah. Technically, the crew sank the train because yeah, that's
So,
glorious. I love stupid
on their
shit
war
like
flag,
that.
on their war flag where you get to display all the things you sank, there was one symbol at the bottom for a train. Because they sank a train.
That fucking captain. I guarantee you, he told that story at every opportunity.
Oh yeah.
He's sitting here like another captain's like, yeah, and then I sank like 3 cruisers that day. Takes drink. You ever sink a train?
It's just like it's that one where it's like the 2 guys talking. I sank an aircraft carrier. Oh yeah? Well, I sank the Bismarck. Amateurs. What was that? Amateurs. I sank a train.
And he just wins. That's just the end of that argument.
I mean, how do you top that?
I don't think you can. I mean, I think the Bismarck would compete just because.
I mean, it's the Bismarck.
Yeah. If it's good enough for Sabaton to make a song.
Yeah. I wish they'd make a song about that sinking the submarine or the train.
Oh my god, I wish they would too. I like that story. I haven't actually heard this story before. I like that story. I like the one oh god, what was his name? He was like, I think he was like a Korean conscript into the Japanese military. You know who I'm talking about.
The one who was Japanese, then taken prisoner by the Russians and forced to fight the
he was captured.
Germans by the Russians, and then the Germans captured him and forced him to fight in D-Day on the Atlantic Wall, and he was captured in D-Day.
Yeah, and
they were just like, why is there a Korean guy here?
Whatever happened to him? I can't remember. I've heard some people tell me he like went and lived in the States because he was fucking done with it.
I think he did.
But I might be confusing that for completely non-racist reasons. I'm just an idiot. With the story about the North Korean that just decided, you know what, fuck this in the middle of like an air
the aircraft.
Yeah.
The air patrol, and he just flies away. Oh,
I wonder what... Cause
he landed on the wrong end of the airport of the landing strip, in South Korea because he was from North Korea, and they couldn't believe it. So they just like guided him into a hangar
Yeah.
because they
No,
just
I
couldn't
remember this
believe it.
story. I love this story. But and like I think he's still alive. I think he moved to the US.
Oh, have you heard the story about the time that the Air Force Special Operations Group stole a helicopter?
No. Go ahead.
They stole a Hind helicopter. Like
Wait,
after
isn't
the
the Hind
Soviet-Afghan
ours?
War, I think it was, they noticed the US noticed that there was a Hind helicopter left behind and they really wanted to get their hands on one. And so they flew in the desert with Chinook helicopters, landed, put straps around the Hind and flew it back to the US or to a US airbase. So they stole a Hind helicopter.
Shit like this is the best. Shit like this is just the best. Um,
Um,
what the fuck do you... Hold on, what does North Korea do to solve that problem with the airplane?
I don't think they could do anything.
No, I mean, they couldn't get the dude back, but what I mean is, how do they make that not happen again? Because I
I
don't know...
think they're just more paranoid. I think that's the only thing you really can do.
But, like, what do they do if a plane just decides, you know what, fuck this?
I mean, we've seen what happens. They just fly back to South Korea.
Wasn't he part of a group, though? Like, how did
He was,
did they
and
just,
just
like,
I
not?
guess nobody could just believe that he just left.
It was just stunning.
I mean,
There's
just
some
how do you
stupid
react to
stories out
that?
there. There's some stupid ass stories out there.
Oh gosh. There was.
I
Have you
guess we
heard the
know what the
time
topic
when
of the podcast is now.
the SRs when an SR-71 called in for a radio check?
The SR-71 is a Blackbird, right?
Yep.
Gotcha. See, I remember things. But no, I have
Sure you
not
do.
heard
Sure
this
you
story.
do. So the story goes that I think it was like a single seater Cessna calls in for a an airspeed check to the tower, and the tower gives them back their speed for that little single prop Cessna, and then just kind of like wanting to show the guy up this twin prop who does have a speedometer, but he just decides to call in to show off, and he gets his marginally faster speed back, and then because he's flying around nearby, a fighter pilot decides to call in because he knows he's the fastest around here. And he calls in for a radio check. He definitely does not need it.
Yeah.
But he gets it back. And then they hear a radio call. It's like Skunkworks A1. Could we get a radio check? Or could we get a radar check? And the tower kind of pauses for a second and says, Skunkworks, we have you going at Mach 3. And you could just hear the stunned silence from all the other planes nearby that heard that. Because that aircraft was an SR-71 Blackbird calling in.
Just a stealth troll.
Yep, literally a stealth troll. It is a stealth aircraft.
I remember. I don't know if this story is true. I do not know, but it's a story of. This is like a lot more modern. It's an Abrams story. You might know this one too. Its tracks got ruined. Like the entire assembly was just fucked.
Oh god.
I think they hit like a handful of IEDs. And well, the U.S. didn't want to just leave the damn thing. They didn't.
Yeah.
They couldn't spend time out in the middle of like the desert to fix it. But they also didn't want to leave an otherwise intact Abrams just laying around.
Yeah, that seems like not the best idea.
So they started trying to destroy it. They stripped out all of its like main systems that they could, and like started shooting it with stuff, trying to kill it. They and like according to the story, they spent like a day. They shelled it. They called in artillery. They shot it with other Abrams, and it just wouldn't die.
Oh, I love it.
So they ended up waiting for 2 days for a big old one of the big towers that they have to come and drag the fucker.
Oh God.
Because they just couldn't kill the damn thing.
And I still didn't want to leave it just laying around.
This was an active area, by the way. There were, I think we were fighting the Taliban.
Oh.
I like to
God.
imagine that there were some Taliban people just like near-ish. Very
Just wondering
confused.
what's going on.
What the fuck are they doing?
Exactly.
It must be target practice. And then they drag the fucking tank away.
Yeah.
I don't know if that story's true, but I love the idea that Abrams are just that tough. I don't know that they are, but I'm going to choose to believe they are.
You do that. Wow, we have really gotten on a tangent here.
Yeah, that's why I was saying I think I know what the fucking podcast is about now.
Yeah, I think so too.
What else you got? Hit me with your next random story.
Oh boy, okay, let me think here.
That's dangerous.
I know. Say cinnamon.
Shut the fuck up.
Oh god, I had one. Shit. Oh! You ever heard the story about the guy that survived falling out of an SR-71?
No, why did he fall out of a Blackbird? What the fuck?
Because it blew up in midair.
Oh, that's fair.
Well, actually, it didn't blow up, more it just disintegrated.
That's fair. Yeah, that's a good reason to fall out. Why are you falling? My plane disappeared.
My plane ceased existing. No, it literally did, because there's this issue with the engines. I'm not going to get into the technicalities. In short, it makes the plane really unstable. Well, that happened at one point on a test flight where they'd moved the center of gravity behind the center point. And so it just caused the plane to tear itself apart.
Yeah, the plane just did not like this.
Yeah, and so it literally ripped itself apart. Well, so this guy was inside the SR-71 as it's tearing itself apart.
Could you imagine
Going
that?
like Mach 3.
Could you imagine, like, being in your plane and realizing that it's just falling apart?
While you're traveling essentially in space at Mach 3.
Yeah, like, did he survive?
Well, he
said
survived.
How did he survive?
So, he fell unconscious at one point as he was plummeting out of it. Turns out his parachute had deployed.
Okay.
After he had fallen out of it. And so he landed in a field, and when he looked down to look at his air, because they wear pressure suits in there, because they're so high up, if that pressure suit fails, they'll die.
Yeah.
Well, when he checked, one of the hoses for the air had been pulled out, and the other one was just hanging on by like a thread. So he was just within a thread of dying of decompression.
Damn.
And he thought he would be out there for like several days, because he'd landed in the middle of nowhere. Well, then he hears a helicopter coming. And this farmer that had seen him falling in his field turned out he was an amateur helicopter pilot. And so he brought him to the hospital, and apparently he thought he would die while traveling to the hospital because the guy's helicopter speedometer, or the RPM meter, never dropped below red.
Yeah, he was like, nah, this motherfucker's getting... Talk about life flight.
Oh, he thought he was going to survive from falling out of an SR-71 only to die in a helicopter on the way to the hospital.
Is that the... Because you said he was, like, endo-atmospheric. He was nearly exo-atmospheric, right?
Yeah.
So... Okay, I have two questions. Could the SR-75... Could the Blackbird break atmosphere if it wanted to?
I don't think so.
Okay.
I think it could, like, essentially scrape the edge of the atmosphere.
but its engines wouldn't have traction to
Yeah, I
continue
think it just
pushing.
couldn't quite make it out of the atmosphere, or at least out of the conventional atmosphere.
Yeah,
I mean, scientists think our atmosphere extends like past the moon.
yeah. What they're talking about is called trace atmosphere. Trace
Yeah,
atmosphere is like the particles and gaseous bodies at all. That's what
yeah.
extends like up and past the moon. You
Oh
aren't
boy.
breathing or anything,
Uh,
but it's
yeah,
like,
no. If you're
can
breathing there, you need help.
can I
You know,
detect oxygen at the moon? Technically, yes.
did you know that actually there have been people that have been exposed to raw vacuum?
I've heard about that. Yeah.
Like, there have been a couple of them. One guy, his suit got this pinhole puncture on I think he was on the ISS, and he didn't even notice.
Yeah.
His skin had filled the hole,
Yeah. Because
and he survived with just mild scarring.
yeah, it, it's dangerous, and that shit's kind of lucky. But yeah, I've heard of a few of them happening like that.
Oh yeah, there was one where they had to evacuate a like this area, and they didn't have pressure suits, and they had to travel through vacuum,
Yeah.
and so they literally jumped through vacuum.
Yeah, I've heard a lot of these stories.
Um,
Because being in vacuum isn't necessary. It's not instant lethal. It is lethal,
so
but it's
it's
not
there. There's a
like
couple things.
yeah,
One, you have to empty your lungs first. If your lungs are full, you will die.
yeah, because the air will expand rapidly.
Yep. The other thing is you can't touch like anything, basically.
Yeah, because your body's not under normal pressures, it'll react violently.
Not quite. It's about temperature.
That too,
So
yeah.
vacuum's an excellent insulator. You won't freeze in vacuum, really.
Will you not?
Because where would the heat go?
Well, you're not freezing because of heat. You're freezing because of a lack of heat. You know what I mean? Does that make sense? Your body
Yeah, no, so
cannot sustain
what
that
happens is
temperature.
your body heat doesn't escape.
Yeah, I guess it wouldn't because there's no
There's nothing for it to escape into.
yeah, there's nothing to cut. I wonder if
But the key thing
hmm,
is though, like if you're on the moon and you touch anything, it could be like negative 100 degrees Celsius.
yeah,
And your body heat will immediately start flooding away from you, and
because
you'll
that's a good point though. Is like there's nowhere for the heat to go.
yeah. So you
So
won't
I
lose heat
wonder.
if you're just in raw vacuum. But if you have anything you're like touching, you'll lose heat to that.
And if you have oxygen in your lungs, then it'll explode.
Yeah.
Um, so arguably, you could theoretically just like float naked.
Well, if you touch the sunlight,
Well, oh god, yes, no. I mean,
and
like,
also radiation.
I mean,
So like if
I'm
you're in a
talking.
Vacuum without sunlight or radiation, then
Yeah,
yes,
that's
you
what I mean. I'm
could
talking just
survive
can you survive the vacuum as
for a
is?
little while.
You'll suffocate eventually, I imagine.
There'll be a couple things because your body still doesn't like having no pressure.
Yeah. Um,
Um, but you won't die immediately. It's not like you'll die in 15 seconds.
yeah.
You'll have like a
That makes me
solid
question,
minute or two.
actually. There's a show on Netflix. It's like a little anthology thing. Um, and I always thought that it would. There's one episode called, I think, A Helping Hand. So this chick she works for some corporation. They don't really get into it. It's an anthology. She's in one of these little like it's like a micro satellite. She's by herself. It flits around to repair shit. Basically, that's her job.
Hmm.
She has to go out to repair something, and while she's out there, this tiny little piece of debris that's been hurtling around smacks across. I think it smacks her across like one of her forearms or something, and
Yeah.
rips this big old gash in it. Right.
Hmm.
It's freaky as hell because like it pitches her away from her ship and stuff. She's just floating now, and she like watches her arm freeze. But the suit has pressure seals, right, at
Yeah.
various parts, so it seals that off.
Hmm.
And so she survives because her arm freezes and then it stops because the suit is regulating everywhere else.
Yeah.
And she ends up, to give herself momentum, she ends up breaking the arm off to chuck it as like a thing to push off of. And that's how she gets back to her ship.
Oh boy.
And
okay.
I always, yeah, it's kind of intense. I always figured that out. That's impossible. She's been exposed. She would like decompress out the fucking hole. But no, if what you're saying is true, then no, that's actually probably possible.
Yeah, you could. You'd lose the arm,
Oh
definitely.
god,
And you'd need some intensive medical help.
Yeah, she had to call for help immediately, and like I think the shot shows her with like a bunch of first aid stuff around her.
Yeah, but no,
yeah.
you could theoretically survive that.
That's interesting. I don't know if Netflix knew that when they produced this, but that's interesting that you very theoretically could live that. I didn't think you could. I'm gonna be real. I thought that was just sci-fi. I mean, it was cool. That's actually interesting to me. Huh.
Wow. We have really been everywhere in this podcast.
I mean, it's our it's our show. We can do what we want.
We have gone from aircraft carriers to battleships to tanks to funny stories about the military to could you survive your arm being frozen off in a vacuum.
To be fair, this is based on like a story from the plane, so it's a good wraparound. Came full circle a little bit.
Yeah, full circle. I mean, aircraft carriers.
Here's a weird question.
Oh god.
I've heard people debate this a lot. Do you think ballistic weaponry could work in space?
Yes.
You think it could?
It does.
Oh, has that been tested? I'm not aware if it's been tested.
The Russians brought guns to space.
Of course they did. What did they do? Just bring like a sidearm to shoot it to see if it worked?
No, there was actually like okay, so there's a couple issues sometimes, but theoretically, yes, ballistics work.
I imagine you can't use like the black powder, obviously, or anything that has to like burn.
So here's an interesting thing to think about, though. If I remember reading this correct, you can shoot yourself on the moon.
Yeah.
By shooting the gun forward.
Yeah, because the moon wouldn't have
gravity.
Arguably, the moon.
If you could theoretically get the correct speed of the bullet and an open enough path, that's the key thing, is that it doesn't hit any tall things.
The moon's gravity wouldn't pull it down. You'd have to fire up a little bit. You'd have to arc your shot slightly.
Yeah.
To accommodate for just the gravity. There's no atmospheric drag, so the bullet wouldn't slow for that reason.
Yep, and so you could shoot yourself in the back of the head.
That's actually really interesting. Like, I wonder... This is, again, the topic's going wild. I wonder how conflict in space would even work then. Like, I feel like high ground becomes a big deal.
I have the high ground.
Well, because from the high ground, you don't have to worry... Like, you just shoot down. And your bullets go straight, like, in any direction, wherever you want them to go. Because there's no atmosphere.
Yeah. There's all kinds of weird logistics about space. Space combat is weird to think about.
Yeah. You'd have to have internal, like, combustion bullets, too. Like, bullets that, like, are sealed and they combust inside of themselves to propel. But I think most bullets are kind of like that anyway, so... I just realized if that's the case, like Western revolvers and shit like that would probably work because they have a hammer that causes a spark inside the bullet.
I don't like this.
So I'm imagining that all warfare would just be space cowboys. Because that's the best. I'm hurting your military brain, aren't I?
Yes.
I wonder what ships will look like when we start doing space stuff. like Navy.
Yeah, that's gonna be a weird thing. Hmm.
Like accepting like universally agreed to do this kind of thing. Like there are a lot of universes that like fleets just sort of agree to orient themselves the same way to fight.
Yeah, no, that's dumb. That's actually one reason why I like Ender's Game.
I like Ender's Game for that reason. I actually really
Um,
like Halo for it too, because if you look at the ship designs, they aren't
yeah,
really directional, except
yeah.
for Big Gun Face Forward. Um,
I'm just thinking about that time. So have you watched the Ender's Game movie?
yes, I have. I've also read the
Uh,
book, so I know what tactics
yeah.
you're talking about.
Remember that time when they go underneath the ice field
Yeah,
and then
because
fire up to hit their enemy?
yeah, I love shit like that.
Because they're actually using, like, in space, you do have that complete maneuverability. You can go directly underneath your opponent and fire at them through an ice sheet.
Yeah, if you can do the math right, you could fire at them from ridiculously far away as well.
Yeah.
Theoretically, if you could perfectly predict a conflict, like where it's gonna start for whatever reason, like maybe you just know where the fleet's coming from, you could fire salvos off early from a different direction and hit them in the middle of another fight. Can you imagine that shit? Like you're in the middle of a fight.
They did that in Star Wars. Or not Star Wars, remember the Keys maneuver in Halo.
Oh shit! Yeah, they did, didn't they?
Yeah, they launched the nuke backwards.
Are you talking about when they drop it into the planet?
The one where they shoot the nuke backwards around the planet.
Yeah, I remember. I know what you're
So
talking about now.
yeah.
I remember that. I also remember. I think it's Keys. He did this too. He like slingshotted his fleet around the planet, up a planet a few times, to like fire off their mech batteries.
I'm pretty sure
At
that
high
was the
speed.
same maneuver.
It might
He
have
used
been, yeah.
the slingshotting around the planet to use the max to disable their shields when the nuke hit.
No, yeah, I know what you're talking about now. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
I think that the order is the opposite. I think because if I remember right, they used
It was weird.
I'm trying.
It's
I'm
a
just
lot
trying to
of
remember.
special stuff.
Keys was awesome. I loved Keys.
He was.
I love
Also Cole.
Cole was really good too.
I
No,
love his
Cole
ending.
was the one. Cole
And
was
how
the
it's
one
just
that
like
nukes the
no
planet.
one's actually sure if he actually died. He might have just escaped with his pirate waifu.
I know, that's great. Fuck you, he's alive.
Yeah. Or
Either he's
okay.
alive or she jumped in to die with him. One of the two.
Yeah. Okay.
That's
really
star-crossed.
weird segue. But again, guy jumping after his waifu. Do you know about the story of the oh god, what's it called? Japanese spider monster.
I'm gonna need you to be more specific, homie.
I know.
If you tell me the story, I might remember it. If I don't know it, then
Joragumo.
oh god, I recognize the name.
Okay, so there's this one time there's this woodsman dude, and he goes to this pond and he's chopping some wood because he's a woodsman and that's what he does.
How much wood
And
could a woodman chop if a woodman could chop wood?
shut up. Well, he drops his axe into the water and gets really depressed because now he can't do his one true calling
Which is killing my brethren.
of chopping wood. And so he goes to sleep there because that's what you do in Japan when you're depressed, I guess.
You take a nap.
Yep. Well, as he's napping, this lady comes out of the water holding his axe and gives it to him. And he's like, "Oh, sweet, a waifu." And so he starts spending a bunch of time with her. But then the local Buddhist priest notices he's looking a bit sickly and pale. And kind of, not healthy.
Yeah.
And so he goes with him next time. And now he's been meeting this girl quite often. And so the Buddhist looks at her and he's like, "Yeah, nope, that's a demon." And so this guy has the completely sane response of he goes to the demon that owns the mountain and is like, "Can I marry this demon?"
I mean, yeah. Go
And the
for
guy's
it.
just like, "You're a human and that's a demon. Cease and desist, don't do it." And so this guy does what you would expect, and walks away. Nope, just kidding. This is Japanese mythology. He jumps into the cave after her and is never seen again.
Okay.
And I like to believe he just spent the rest of his days with his spider waifu.
I mean, true love conquers all, including.
Spider waifus.
Yeah. I mean, I guess he was a leg man.
Yeah.
I'm not even
But
gonna
no,
bother trying to
I love
figure
that
out the
story.
logistics
I
of all
love
this.
Japanese mythology in general.
I
It's
love
so...
mythology in general. There's some weird ass shit out there.
Oh gosh, but the Japanese, they've got like one specific myth about this specific rock that will kill you if you touch it.
I think I've heard this.
Yeah. I'm not going through the story because I can't remember it, but...
So, I treat this as mythology, and fuck you if you don't. You know those people that are like... We used to live... How do I phrase this? God, it's so crazy. There are these people that think, like, the Egyptian god Thoth is real, but not the Egyptian version. It's like this weird as fuck. Thoth. Oh my god, it's spirit science basically.
Oh boy.
Do you know? Hang on, I can actually. Just YouTube spirit science. Since you're presenting.
I'm not.
Oh, you're not?
I stopped presenting because we were done looking at the images.
Oh no, you're just presenting on the screen because there's only two of us.
Oh, yeah.
Well, anyways, it's spirit science, and it's like Thoth did all this weird shit, and like there are humans, and there are Martians. And
I remember that.
Aliens. Yeah,
Oh
you know.
god.
You know what I'm talking about.
Oh. Oh, it's like the Martian one.
Yeah. I also love like the Atlanteans were all female minded, and the Martians were all male minded.
Oh gosh.
That's my favorite. I'm like, what the fuck does this mean?
I remember Dr. Stick.
Professor Stick, yeah. Professor Stick.
Yeah, Professor Stick.
That's
when he talked about them.
That's where I got exposed to this.
Yeah, that was amazing.
That's some of my favorite mythology just because, oh my god. Are you okay? Are you good?
Definitely not.
Do you need some... anything?
Do you need some milk?
I just can't with this. Moving on.
I'm just done.
I can hear the fucking video in my head. I've watched it so many
why'd you do this?
It's glorious. I'm gonna watch it again after this. They're funny.
Probably going to as well now. I hate you.
Do we want to wrap it up?
I'd say so.
Do your plugs, because you have less plugs than I do.
Oh, I don't have plugging. Do stuff. I don't know. Kaiser Snek, do something with that.
What's your Twitter handle again?
I think it's just Kaiser Snek.
There you go. You can all go harass him now.
Oh, I hate you. I'm gonna hide secret plugs inside your fan fictions now.
If you ever beta any of them.
I used to.
You used to when you got busy.
Me. Yeah. You're not wrong. Alright, well, do your plugs and
so on Twitter I'm Twisted Fate. On fanfiction I'm Twisted Fate. On Archive I'm Twisted Fate. On Inkit I'm Twisted Fate. I can continue.
On Patreon,
Patreon,
it's Walkers of the World Tree.
Yeah. On Web Novel I'm Twisted Fate.
Yeah, I hate web novel. Web novel is assholes.
Kind of. I'm posting there. I started posting there a long time ago. I kind of stopped. I wasn't getting any traction, and they were assholes. And this guy, fucking... Apparently he liked the one story on there that I was doing so much. It's the... Oh, God. Oh, it's the Star Wars crossover.
I just want you to remember my hatred for posting, my I think it was my sunshine. I hate that. You are the cause of depression in this world.
I have others.
That one though is the most depressing thing ever.
Um, let's see. You can see my screen
God, why did you kill her?
because it was a death fic.
Why though? Why
To be
did you feel it
sad,
necessary to write that?
to make people feel emotions.
Who hurt you?
God, that is a question that has no end.
All right.
Um,
Well, I'd say that's a wrap. Find them on Patreon at Walker's the World Tree.
I have a
There'll
YouTube
probably be a
channel.
link.
I have a YouTube channel now by my same name. It's Twisted.
Oh, you do?
Yeah. I've been doing. I'm gonna do other shit eventually. This is just me learning how to edit and record and stuff. I've been responding to. I want to say like the hate dumb critics kind of thing, like the shitty people.
Oh, those things.
Yeah. Um, I've only done Vexed so far. I'm gonna look for other ones. I'm using them to learn how to edit and all of this.
Yeah, I might eventually do some YouTube videos.
I won't super get into it, but the newest one that I put out like the other day, fucking, I caught this motherfucker red-handed. He is a lying motherfucker. He was editing scenes and cutting things to misrepresent what was going on, so you could shit on it. But I'm doing YouTube videos out there. It's gonna be gaming stuff eventually. I'm just using this to learn.
Well, I should probably go now.
Yeah. Say goodbye, Snek.
Oh, yes, goodbye, all of my loyal fans.
And everyone remember, wash your hands and step on Snek.
Fuck you. Don't forget, if you ever see a cactus, destroy it with a flamethrower immediately.
Don't, you'll get high.
That's what?